Hey now, hey now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. King of Love, we moving on up. I have a message from the King of Love, lessons, degrees, melodies sent from above. The King of Love is sent to teach. Words of wisdom are within your reach. Knowledge is a deep understanding of the wisdom of self without being demanding. The words he speaks, the melody he sings, let you know and adore he is truly a king. Disregard the appearance, seek to reach within, and embrace the King of Love without fear of sin. His life is dramatic, his path full of gold. The King of Love will never grow old. The words make you smile, the touch makes King of Love, we moving on up. I have a message from the King of Love, lessons, degrees, melodies sent from above. The King of Love is sent to teach. Words of wisdom are within your reach. Knowledge is a deep understanding of the wisdom of self without being demanding. The words he speaks, the melody he sings, let you know and adore he is truly a king. Disregard the appearance, seek to reach within, and embrace the King of Love without fear of sin. His life is dramatic, his path full of gold. The King of Love will never grow old. The words make you smile, the touch makes you blush. The seriousness of it all sends your mind in a rush. Sisters, brothers, all families, you don't hear him calling? You must be deaf because we seem to be falling from the highest heights where we were meant to be. His music soothes and his words relieves. Listen close, pay attention. Let him take you to another dimension. When you feel the touch, please don't rush. Relax, open your mind and learn to trust. Look within to see who you truly are, and let the King of Love be your guiding star. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to JAS Enterprises, Inc., Judith. We welcome you to this first episode of the Setback to the Comeback with my good friend, Mr. Steve Werner. Before we get started, I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce you to this guru of a man. A lot of people who know me and know the type of businesses that I've ran or the spaces that I've been in throughout my life knows that I've been a lot in real estate and financial situations. And I wanted to start off by introducing Steve and how we met so that you guys can understand the relationship that we have and how he was so gracious to come onto this show to share his knowledge, his wisdom from his perspective as it relates to all the different things that he has done within his lifetime, so to speak. Steve is the founder of the Hour of Champions. Everybody knows Steve, so I don't really have to do too much of an introduction. But I'll give you a little background. Steve owned Smith Rothschild, which was a consumer financial agency that did a lot of lending in our communities. So the reason why I brought Steve in, because Steve, one, he's a Jewish gentleman who has poured. And a lot of my Facebook friends and people that know me poured into the community. And every time I would just mention lending, because that's my space that I shared in, and I would mention Steve's name, I got nothing but raves. So as I was led to start this podcast is to be used to be able to help people to be able to take their business and their personal aspirations to a new level. And so, one of the things, I hope you guys can hear me well. One of the things I wanted to share about Steve is that Steve and his company, Smith Rothschild, the old schoolers know about Steve and Smith Rothschild. The new schoolers know about dogs, the Defender doors. That was Steve. So anybody that's been in real estate and rehabs know that we protect our properties with dogs, DAWGS, and Steve was the a part of that, and the mastermind behind everything that he touched manifests. So before we go any further, I want Steve to tell you how he met why, and that way we'll get to flow. We'll be able to flow. So y'all be patient with me. This is my first time doing this, but you're gonna get your pencils and your papers out. I want you all to be able to glean from what he's about to share with us. So Steve, go ahead. Tell them how you met me.
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind introduction. Congratulations on launching your podcast. It's just, I mean, every year you're just doing something new, Judith,
Yeah.
and I've watched it since we met. I mean, you don't never cease to amaze me. And by the way, you're always there when I need you too. And I remember putting you on the phone with my wife just a few weeks ago to
Oh,
introduce you. And you've been a blessing to my world. And if I was half as good as you thought I was, I'd really be something. Um, but yeah, I look back. I remember it was probably late 2007, maybe 2008. I was on the West Side, and I was with a business colleague, and I said, "We're going to stop into Covenant Bank." And
yeah.
he said, what do you mean stop in?" I said, "Yeah, we're going to pull over. We're going to get out of the car and we're going to walk in the bank because we're both servicing the community. We're both lending and helping the community revitalize itself. It was a very tumultuous time. As a matter of fact, the
Yeah.
credit crisis was going on. People were losing properties, losing their jobs, etc. And I knew that there was probably an opportunity to work together. And I walked in the bank, and you met me at the front door and said, "Do you have an appointment?" And I looked. I said, "Nope." And
No.
you said, "Well, what do you mean you don't have an appointment?" I said, "I don't have an appointment." And you said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm here to see you." And
Yeah.
you said,
You
"How do you
gangstered
know?
your way.
How do you know?" And I said, "I have a feeling. I have this kind of
Yeah.
this feeling that we were meant to meet." And you said, "But you don't have an appointment." And I said, "I'll wait." And you said, "It might be a few hours." And I said, "No problem. I'll take a seat." And I looked at my colleague and said, "It won't be a few hours."
2 hours.
She kind of likes me already. I can. She likes my style,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we became friends right then and there. And we found ways to work together in business. And I knew that there was an opportunity to maybe service some of the folks that the banks couldn't service on the front end of the loan, and then once a property was revitalized, bring it back to you for
Yeah.
that end loan, and to give people the opportunity to rehab, to create affordable housing, and to keep working to revitalize the communities. And we did that together, and we
Yes, we
have
did.
for years.
And by the way, if people don't know, Covenant Bank was a bank that was started by Bill Winston, Pastor Bill Winston of Living Word. And at that time, I had went over there and I was creating lending at the time when lending wasn't happening. And like Steve said, he was so forceful. He kind of gangstered his way into the office. But
Jewish gangster,
we,
yeah.
yeah, that was, Jews don't, they get what they want, right? And you
Mm,
got it.
we sure fight for it, that's for sure. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so it's been a blessing to have met you that day, Steve. I've gleaned so much from you. I wanted to personally thank you for all that you've done in our communities when a lot of lenders didn't, do want to lend to people in our community. You and your organization lent to our community. And for that, I'm gracious and thankful. And that's why I wanted you to be on here, because you have a lot to share with us. You can share the back end and the front end of attaining wealth, and you can give us insight into, different things, coaching that you do. He created Hour of Champions, and we're going to go into how that happened as well, so that people can understand, the setback is always going to be a setback, but that comeback is always there. So we want people to keep the hope, keep the faith, and learn the tools that's needed in order to attain what you were created to attain in this earth. So, without further ado, Steve, thank you once again so much for giving me the blessing, for you being on here to share with my people and the people that I love that want to hear and glean from you. And Steve offers coachings, business and personal coaching for businesses. He's done so much. It's just too much to talk about. He's written a book called The Titan. So get that from Amazon. I'll have things going along the bottom so that you guys will be able to get the information when you need it. It's going to be a good conversation, and that's what this is, a good conversation. We get to have a conversation in front of everybody,
You
Steve.
better stop promoting me so much, Judith, so we can have the conversation. My God.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But you know
But
what? You have been a blessing to
well,
our
thank you.
community.
I
You
appreciate
have been a
that,
blessing.
and as I said in our little, I know we were chatting some minutes before we went live here, and it hit me hard in the late teens of the previous decade when I thought about not just lending that went on with the company that I was fortunate to be part of, but also the exponential effect of creating affordable housing and employment and commerce and how it all worked together. And that was really amazing to me when I thought through it. And if it wasn't for people like you that were active in the community and taking the risk to buy and rehab properties at that time, I mean you gave people like you gave us the opportunity to do what we do. So right back
Amen.
at you.
Amen. I just want to be used by the Most High. That's all I desire to
Well,
do. Help
you've taught me
people.
that for a long time. That is for
Yes,
sure. Yep.
and I've been very much so doing my best to try to be as useful as I can while I'm upon the land of the living, Steve. And because of people like you, our community sometimes is blighted and slighted. So we don't get opportunities like that. But your company did that for us. So Smith Rothschild, even dogs, there was a new wave of boarding up. You came, the ideas that you have is so innovative and it just make money. So I like to be attached to, people who are growing, because there's a scripture in the Bible that says, where there's no vision, the people perish. So you had to have a vision for each one of the businesses that you've been in that made you successful, had setbacks, but you came back. And we want to share that with the world today. We want to share, how did that happen? What did that look like? And you can start, you already said how you gangstered your way into my office. So now people know our relationship. We're going to just have the conversation, an open conversation about business, personal issues, relationships, spiritual part of it, all the aspects. Let's just be open.
Well, I'm here to be open, and you mentioned success. My children, they're not children anymore. My kids have asked me, my whole life, what it means to be successful, and it was explained to me years ago that it's when hard work and luck collide. you
Mm.
know, um,
Hard work and luck. Luck.
hard work and luck collide.
Yeah.
All of a sudden success materializes, and it's not all rosy, right? Like the company that you spoke of. Well, previous to that, I know that I was a commodity trader at the Chicago Board of Trade
Absolutely.
for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I give most of the credit in my development to my father and my grandfather and my great uncles, and that's why I wrote the book, The Titan, as a tribute to them, to be able to tell the story in a fictitious way of a person that gets thrown back to 1947 Chicago and really discovers his business DNA. So I would hope that people buy the book and be able to weave those principles into their the success of their life as well, because that's why I did it. For a few reasons. It wasn't to be a moneymaker. It was to tell my story honestly. And that beautiful company, that lending company, was the was you know hurt by the credit crisis in 2008, 2009. We actually had to painfully unwind that business, which was one of the great setbacks of my life, of my business life. You can't plan for not only 100-year flood, but 1,000-year flood, like what happened during that time. But simultaneous to me, because of hard work and luck, the opportunity to get involved with dogs, the board up company, came to me. So as I was painfully unwinding or involved in the worst business scenario, the most painful I can imagine, I had another opportunity come my way, and somehow or another I drummed up the strength and the courage to be able to do both at the same time. And one wound up painfully ending, and the other wound up growing. And this month is 1 calendar year since we actually exited the business. I know that that we wound up selling the business, which is another spiritual story in itself.
Right. Let me ask you this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for people that don't know the crisis that took place in 2008, kind of give us a synopsis of what that was like in the lending side of things for you.
Yeah, well, we had become the premier lender in the most impoverished communities of Chicago. That was our business model, and we were working with hundreds of rehabbers and developers. And when when the market crashed, I always tell people the lending model didn't break, the real estate market crashed, and values went from a two flat on the south side that was selling for $300,000 all of a sudden
Yeah,
became available for $50,000. I
right.
mean, it was unsustainable, and it was incredibly painful to be able to live through that and navigate through that. But there's a lesson in everything. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I could get taken down to my knees, and didn't deal with it really well. And then I kind of built myself back up. And like we were talking before we got on the air here, you mentioned the Muhammad Ali photo
Right,
behind me, and this is
right.
I'm sitting at my son's desk, who has been involved in boxing since his teens. And the one thing that he reminded me, always looking at the Ali portrait, is that you could lose you could lose the first 14 rounds of a championship fight and still win the fight
Still win.
in the 15th. You could lose
That's
all
right.
14 and
That's
still win
right.
the fight in the 15th. And he reminded me of that. And it was kind of a metaphor and a tap on my shoulder that said, you always have to stay in the fight. You have to stay in
Stay
the
in the
fight
fight.
because you don't know, we don't get to see the script
That's
of how
right.
it all plays out, and greatness can be an inch away, just 1 inch away. So, and I stayed in the fight. I was able to help found the security company, and then grow it from Chicago to 13 cities
That's
along the
right.
way, going up to Michigan and Detroit, and then out through Ohio and to the whole East Coast. And it was crazy to even watch it. And I pinch myself
Yeah.
because you refer to Father or Lord. I say my, the universe has given me many opportunities,
Right.
and you know, my wife says I say a lot, and I do, but my kids saw me at my most troubled moment when I was really down on my knees, and then my kids saw me at my most heroic moment also after in the mid-teens, and that's kind of the way I want to remember and be remembered, and that was redemption that was given to me by the universe,
That's
and
right.
I know that you know that better than anybody.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I believe that every success, there's a sacrifice. And during the time that you experienced the demise of one business, the creator then gave you something else to do. And I believe it was because of the seeds that you had sown, Steve. We
I
never discussed that.
Yeah,
But
well, the opportunity was presented, and then I had to dig deep and and really understand that it was there. And I think that kind of plays into the theme of what we're talking about here. That life is full of setbacks,
that's right.
and the universe sets it up beautifully for the comeback if
That's
you're willing to stay in the fight. Really, the
right.
whole metaphor, the portrait behind us says,
Right.
"Stay in the fight, and another opportunity will arise." And this starts with at our earliest days. I mean, nobody ever started walking without falling,
That's
right?
right. That's
We had
right.
to get
That's
back up.
right.
We were all broken up with by a girlfriend or a boyfriend in junior high
Some type
school
of
or in
hardship. Some
grammar school, had our heart broken.
Yep.
We've lost loved ones. We've had failures, but every time there's a setback, I've learned that there's a comeback waiting around the corner if I want to embrace it.
That's
And
right.
I've studied my life. I've studied the journey, and it's
Amazing.
without question, it's there. And I would submit to everybody that's out there listening to that, look at the history of your life, and you'll
Mhm.
see a series of setbacks and
Yep.
comebacks.
And the comeback.
Yep.
Yep. So doing the setback, Steve, not to just roll on that, because people do need to know, because a lot of times we get in situations and it's so dire and we lose hope, and it gets to a point where we have nothing to hope for. And so we before we started here, we started talking about how most of the people that I know, they use problems and situations in their lives, and rather than creating a way out, they medicate themselves, or they do
Hmm.
things that kind of troubles the situation a little more. So during your situation, when you had the multi million dollar business to fail, and not really fail, because God did provide for you another way, another avenue, but you still had a situation where you were here and you were brought to here. During that time, can you tell the people, was it a struggle for you emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially? What was it for you? I know it was financial, but for emotionally and mentally, and that's what we want to kind of touch base with, how business also deals with the emotional part of things, the spiritual part of things, and the physical part of things, because there's labor, you know what I'm saying, that's your emotion, your spirit that you put into the work, because you said for every success there's a sacrifice. You got to put that grit and that work into it. And I want you to just let the people know that you too, from the place that you were standing, had a situation in your life that you can explain it better than I can, but I would like for you to expound on that.
Yeah, well, I'm proud to say I'm only human. So,
That's right.
I found out I wasn't Superman, especially after the credit crisis. I took that very hard. I took it very personally, and I was brought down to my knees. There's no other way of sugarcoating it. I wound up seeking help, and I wound up getting put on multiple medications to be able to deal with life. And I was a walking zombie for 6 years. Um, I will tell you, I was a husband, a father, a brother, a son, a business partner, a friend, and I never did not get up on a given day. But I have to credit my wife who kicked me in the butt every morning and said, "Let's go. We got this." My wife had lost her mother
Shout
when
out
she was,
to Jill.
shout out to Jill. My wife had
Yeah,
lost her mother when she was 21 years old. And she said, I know you think this is tough, but this is not tough. This
that's
is
right.
life. Let's go. I'm with you. I'm supporting you. And my kids were there. And I got up and I functioned, but I functioned under multiple medications. And then to make a very long story short, one morning I was having breakfast with a dear friend's son who's a doctor. And he
Mhm.
looked at me in the eyes and he said, "What are you on?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Steve, I'm 40 years old. I've known you since I'm 12. You're not the guy that I've known my whole life. There's a glazed look in
Hmm.
your eyes." And I said, "Well, I had this business, fail in 2009. I got very depressed. I got put on all these medications." And he looked at me. He asked me what the meds were. I told him, and he said to me, "You're going to die." And
Hmm.
I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're going to die." And I said, "Well, wait a second. These are all under the guide of a doctor. Like, I'm not just pulling pills off the pharmacy shelf." And he said, "No, I'm telling you right now, we need to get you off all these meds. And I need to know right now, are you in or are you out?" And I looked and I said, "Oh my God, like, I agreed to meet this young man for breakfast and now he's telling me I'm going to die.
Right.
One doctor's telling me I need to be medicated. The other doctor's telling me I need to be off of everything. And who do you trust more than your doctor?" And I just looked at him and I said, "Okay, I'm in." And he said, "Okay, buckle up. It's going to be the worst 12 months of I'm sorry, the worst year of your life." And
Hmm.
he was right. I had no idea that you can get addicted to medication that a doctor puts you on.
That's
And
right.
we had to strategically wean me off all the meds one at a time so I didn't, God forbid, have a stroke or a heart attack or a seizure. And
That's the
my
thing,
wife was in charge of dispensing the medication to me every night on his orders. And I will tell you that the second night I was having major withdrawals and meltdowns. It was February 4th, 2015. It was 5 below zero out. And I texted Ari,
I
my
love this
doctor,
story.
"I need more Klonopin." And he texted me back, "F you." And I'm looking at my phone. I'm crying. I'm shivering. I'm melting down. I'm going through withdrawals. And I said, "Like, you don't understand. I need more. I'm melting down." And I could see the bubble coming through and it said, "Get in the street and run 25 wind sprints." And I texted him back, "But it's 4 or 5 below zero out." And he said, "I know the temperature. I live in Chicago too. Get in the street." And I did. And I came back and I said, "I did it." He said, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel better." And he said, "All right, get in the shower, get cleaned up, get your day started. Let's go." And I said, "But it's 2:47 in the morning." And he said, "I know the date. I know the time. I have a wife, 2 kids. I committed to you. You committed to me. Let's go." And
That's
that was, as I've described it many times, I've been very transparent about this story, that it was the first of 10 months of hell, 10
mhm.
months of living hell. And then one day I woke up and I was sitting at my kitchen counter, and Jill, my wife, walked in, and I had a tear coming down my face. And she said to me, "What's the matter?" And I said, "I feel good. I don't even know what it's like to feel good. I forgot what it was like to feel good. I felt so horrible for so long." And I
Mhm.
called Ari and he said, "Congratulations, you made it to the other side. A lot
That's
of
right.
people don't make it." And this is where you and I got into the discussion about you can't cure a soul problem with a pill.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
With a
And
pill.
I went and chatted with him and I started talking about depression and he said, "You didn't have depression, buddy. You had fear, but doctors don't know how to treat fear. So they
That's
medicate
right.
it." He said,
Mhm.
"What I did was I gave you the tools, the physical, mental, and spiritual tools to be able to deal with fear. And now I trade a pill for a prayer.
That's
If I
right.
have
That's
something
right.
that's
Yay.
overwhelming in my mind or in my soul, I find a safe spot and I ask for strength. I might do it 3 times a day. Sometimes I go months without needing it. Sometimes I need it 3 times in a day, but I know that I can go to my physical, my mental, or my spiritual options, and asking for strength works 100%
That's
of the
it.
time. And thank you for letting me share that story. I used to get like super emotional, but I've told it really so many times, and I want people to hear it loud and clear that
Mhm.
that masking your problems with medication is not the solution. It doesn't. The universe has a beautiful GPS system set up for
That's
you
right.
if you follow it.
Yeah.
And when you mask that pain, um, the GPS system goes off and it just becomes more painful
So
along
you
the
need
way.
to trademark that nothing can you can't cure a soul problem with a pill.
Yes,
That needs to be trademarked
I
and
know.
patented
Yes.
because that's very important in anything that we do.
Yep.
We can't find ways to medicate ourselves. We have to like your wife did. And I love that Jill was there for you because there's a scripture in the Bible that says Ecclesiastics 4 and 9. It says two is better than one, for the reward is great. But when one fall, there's the other one to pick them up. So it's important. That's why the universe, the creator, created us to have a spouse so that in the event you went through what you went through, she was there. So shout out to Jill.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you got my
Yeah. Well,
Steve back.
she's given me quite a few messages along the way. You know that. So
Oh yeah, I remember. Tell me about the one, the fifth floor.
the fifth floor. Well, um, I hope the audience hears this loud and clear too, because this may resonate with a lot of people. What I resist most often turns out to be the key to my success or my freedom. So I think like sometimes I think I can outsmart the universe, and I don't pay attention to messages along the way, and I resist things, and then when I finally surrender, um, some sort of great success or freedom finds its way into my life. And I was sharing this with you a few months ago that Jill and I were invited to Santa Fe, New Mexico. It'll be 2 years next week, I believe, by a dear friend of mine who was a business partner of a spiritual guru. There was going to be a weekend workshop in Santa Fe, and
Oh,
my
I
buddy
love
said to
it.
me, just if you fly to Albuquerque and come to Santa Fe, the rest of the weekend is on me. I want you to experience this spiritual weekend. So we did. We flew to Albuquerque. We drove to Santa Fe, which is just it's such a spiritual
Amazing.
place to wind up. And the first night, we were sitting with about 100 people, and Caroline, the spiritual woman, got on stage, and she diagrammed on a whiteboard what appeared to be an apartment building. And she said, "I want you to imagine that this is a high rise in Manhattan." And here I am. I'm leaned back. I'm like totally into this, right? And Jill is kind of finicking around on her phone. And Caroline proceeds to say, I want you to also imagine that two people could live in this same building for 20 plus years. One lives in the penthouse, one lives down on the second floor, and they have two totally different views of the city. The person in the penthouse sees Manhattan skyline, the Statue of Liberty, the Hudson, and the person on the second floor sees people, traffic, garbage. And she says, I've been spending my life trying to get to the penthouse of life. I want the greatest view of life. And I'm just like drooling. I'm so into this. This is
Right.
spirituality, and this is what I came for. And I'm looking, and there's my wife on her cell phone, not paying attention, right? And
Right.
I'm getting like ticked off at that point.
Right. Right.
So about an hour and a half later, we're taking a walk through the town of Santa Fe, and I think we're going to get like iced tea or something, or maybe some yogurt. And she looked at me and she said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Well, you know what's the matter." She goes, "No, I really don't." I said, "Well, there she is. She's up on stage and she's giving this beautiful lecture on, on spirituality. And there you are. You're on your cell phone, not even paying attention."
Right.
And she looks at me and says, "How do you know I just don't like my view from the fifth floor?" And
Moral of the story.
I said, "What did you say?" She goes, "Yeah, I love my view from the fifth floor. And by the way, I'm really happy for you that you like your view from the penthouse. You try to get to the penthouse and
That's
everything.
it.
I'm
That's
really
it.
happy to be on the fifth floor." And
Right.
that was a tap on my shoulder that I had been judging her journey the whole way. And who
Mhm.
was I to judge her journey? And
That's
she
right.
was paying attention in that
Mhm.
lecture. And she was happy. And she said to me, "Would you mind the next few days if I just went and explored Santa Fe?
Right.
And you go to your lectures and spend your time there? Because I know that's why you're here. And I'm really happy for you because this is a happy place for
And she
you,
like
you
the
know?"
fifth floor.
And she said, "But I'm going to stick around on the fifth floor." And I
That's
said,
right.
"Yep."
That's
And that
right.
was, again, I for years did not understand the concept of judgment. And that not
Mhm.
only was I judging her, but I was judging me too
Mhm.
forever, always like penning myself up against other people. And why aren't I as good as
Wow.
him? And why didn't this happen? Instead of just saying, "Thank you for everything that I have," and
Exactly.
understanding gratitude. So thank you for letting me share that story. It's
Wow,
a big part of my life.
that's amazing. I love this. Every time you can tell me that every day because I have to reflect on that for myself
We
because
call it the
we
fifth
do
floor.
get in a position
Yep.
where we want to judge another person's journey based on ours,
Yeah.
and that's not how we're designed.
And I think we as humans have to decide what floor we want to be on, right? And
That's
when
right.
I'm in the middle of a coaching program, whether it's in business or one on one, even, it's like, let's talk about what floor you want to be on, and design a plan to get there, right?
That's
And when
right.
you think about it in that metaphorical way and envision that building and that floor, and it's a journey. It's tough to get to the penthouse. It really is. It takes a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
work.
true. I've had the same experience with my husband. My I like flashy stuff, and my husband is plain, and he say I don't like designer stuff. Me, I like it. So we have to learn how to accept people where they are, and be okay with that.
Yes.
But know that that doesn't mitigate them not being there for you when you need them. And I'm so grateful for Jill because I needed my Steve back.
Oh, well, thank you. And by the way, I forgot to mention during that previous part, during that 10-month journey, that required a lot of work um, on my part, physical, mental, and spiritual. That's when I started working out at 3 o'clock in the morning and incorporating super intense fitness, mindset training, and spirituality, which I was also resistant to forever.
Mhm.
And when I surrendered to the spiritual part, that's when I was able to make it through that 10-month journey. And I coined that the hour of champions. And
And
that,
that's when the hour of champ. I remember Steve, a conversation we had years ago.
yep.
I remember
And that's
that.
when it was
And,
born. And
and that's when our champions was born.
yep, I called a college friend of mine, a very dear friend. I said, "I'm about to start a Facebook community and share my story of my journey. And, I'm going to be putting my workouts on there, my fitness workouts, and also how I get in touch with spirituality and mindset." And I said, "Do you think that's egomaniacal?" And he said, "I don't think so at all.
No.
I think the world needs to hear your
Do
story."
you
And I
see
said,
how
"Will you
that
be?"
that Facebook community grew? It grew right before my eyes.
It did.
And family, go on to our champions. And I know that just reading the post, a lot of things that you put out there to challenge people to answer those hard questions concerning themselves, it has helped people. I've seen people write on there that they were wanting to commit suicide and things like that, and how what you put out there helps people to understand you're not at your, look where you came from. You're not at your end. Just because you had a setback doesn't mean you're at your end. Doesn't mean you have to jump off a tall building. Doesn't mean you have to take pills. So what God had put into you for your experience that you had, Steve, and it was difficult for you to go through, but it wasn't for you. It was for us.
I don't know if
Because
you're familiar with. Are you familiar with the concept of Dark Night of the Soul?
mm-mm.
That is something everybody should Google and explore because when
It's
I was
called what?
Dark Night of the Soul,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was in Santa Fe, Caroline, who was the spiritual woman, she came to me one day, and you have to imagine there's 100+ people there, and she said, "You and I are going to have lunch together." And I said, "Well, what about the 100 other people?" She said, "I know you have a story to tell me." And I went like this. And I said, "I do." She said, "Yeah, I have a sense you have a story you want to share with me." And I
Mm,
shared the story of, that 10-month journey. And she said, "You went through Dark Night of the Soul." And
mm,
I said, "I don't even know what that is." And she said, "Well, it's a period, a very, very dark period that you go through. It could be for a day, a week, a month, a year, several years, because you need to make it through and come out to the other side and understand how to carry a message forward, how to
that's
deal
right.
with
Oh, I've been through it.
like
I've had that then.
real darkness. Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
real
I've had
darkness,
those
and
stories. I've had
it's
those
it's.
dark nights of the soul.
I hope the viewers Google it and think about it because it's something that a lot of us have gone through, and we are messengers
That's
after
right.
that. And you're certainly a messenger. That I know for sure.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Tell me about that chump down method. Yeah.
Well, yeah, this again plays into the twist of they you can't cure a soul problem with a pill, and this over medicating of America uh, problem that's running rampant. Like every time we have a setback or a disappointment, we're now medicating disappointments, right?
That's
Um,
right.
instead of learning how to deal with it. And you and I were talking about secularism and this
Hmm.
loss of touch with religion and faith, right? And
That's
learning
it.
um, how to go from fear to faith
Hmm.
instead of a pill. How to make this maneuver, which I've learned and coach people through on make that shift from fear to faith. And I was specifically talking to you about a client that I was working with, and at the end of one of the sessions, you said to me, "I just want to remind you that I suffer from severe depression."
Hmm.
And I said, "Yeah, I know you've mentioned that several times, and I guess I've never asked you what are you depressed about." And he kind of looked at me. He said, "Well, I'm afraid of losing my job." And I said, "Well, are you depressed or are you scared?"
Hmm.
And
There's a difference.
he said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Well, let me ask it again. Are
Hmm.
you depressed or are you scared?" And he said, "I guess I'm scared." And I said, "Okay, well, we have depression written across on this whiteboard. Can we erase that now and put fear?"
Hmm.
And he kind of smiled and he said, "Yeah, let's do that." So we the chunk down method was to go from depression, put an arrow down, and then get to the reality, right? He thought he had depression, and now he's
Hmm.
pretty certain he has fear. So the next question was, do you treat fear the same way you treat depression?
Mm.
And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what do you do for depression?" He said, "Well, I take 3 different medications." Shock, shock. I said, "What do you do for fear?" And he
Hmm.
said, "Well, I try to I try to find something courageous to do."
Hmm.
I said, "Okay, well, FYI, you're now medicating your fear. You told me that you have fear. Are you going to call your doctor tomorrow and say, hey, by the
Hey, I
way,
need a pill. Right.
by the way, why am I taking pills for fear?" You know,
Right.
um,
Right. That's
and
important.
it is important, and it's nothing in my coaching practice. I try to get people to reality, like
Mhm.
what is real. Are you? I always use the phrase, you either are where you are or you are where you tell yourself you are. And
That's
that's an interesting dichotomy, right? Because
right.
what we tell ourselves isn't always true. It puts us in a comfort level. I think I'm depressed. Well, maybe I'm really fearful,
No, I'm
right?
depressed.
Yeah.
No,
So, and I stress that, if a lot of times we think the problem is here, and it's really here. It's in
and
our soul,
it's that
and
soul.
this can't be cured with a pill. This takes a lot of deep work. You're a God fearing religious woman. I'm not overly religious. I am ritualistic in my Judaism, but I am very spiritual. I am very introspective and always
That,
trying to figure out what makes Steve tick. What messages uh, is the universe sending me that I might not be aware of? Is my ego getting in the way? And is it too big? And am I not listening for what the universe is trying to tell me?
that's right.
And that's how you cure this problem right here, because the heart and the mind need to work together.
That's right.
When there's a disconnect, that's what causes all this resentment, anxiety, jealousy, anger, frustration, that leads to this whole mental illness phenomenon that we have going on right now. And
That's right.
I stress that people ask their doctor um, three things. I'm never going to be the person that tells you should get off medication. I'm not a
That's
medical practitioner, but I would urge you to ask three questions.
that's
Number
it.
one,
Write it down, y'all.
yeah, number one, how long do you think I'll be on these medications for? Number
Hmm.
two, are they addictive? And
Hmm.
number three, what are the side effects?
Hmm.
Um, because we don't even know the side effects of a lot of them. And I'll tell you that 7 years later, I still get headaches. I still get dizziness. I still get
Hmm.
nauseous.
All the
Um,
effects of that.
and I don't know if it'll ever go away, but I do
Hmm.
know that I get on my knees and I ask for strength.
That's right.
Um, and I don't mask my disappointments or my sadness with a pill. I have other tools, and I love to work with people to develop those, because I had a gift put into my life who taught me how to do that.
Hmm. That's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it brings me to remind me, I was having a conversation with this judge for and to be anonymous, Judge CB, and we were talking about um, development and acquiring your goals. And he come from where I came from the projects, and he became a judge. He had a successful law practice and then became a judge. And we were having a conversation. He said, "You know what, Judy?" He said, and when he said it to me, it was like a Mack truck hit me, because it let me know that I'm able to attain anything I want, and I don't have to use alcohol, drugs, or any kind of chemical addiction in order to accomplish that. But one of the things that he said to me, he said, nothing will stop a mind that is so made up that it'll stake its very existence on a worthwhile goal. When he said that to me, I said, "Oh, I can become anything." I believed, like R. Kelly, I could fly. No, it made sense. It's just like what you said. It makes sense. Your soul is what's needed in order to be successful in anything. You got to get this right, not that. You got to get this right. And then once you get that right, everything flows into place. That's amazing, Steve, where the creator has brought you from in your journey. And understand this, he brought you back because of all the seeds. We live in a seed time and harvest. You plant a seed, you get a flower or you get a fruit. And you've planted over your life good seeds. You got good children, you got a good wife, you got good seeds in the ground. So your harvest is plentiful because you put good seeds down there. And you sharing that to the people who otherwise may not even get this kind of understanding as it relates to their business, their personal relationships, their business ideas. Get this right first, and then the rest of the stuff will flow. It'll be a setback, but there's always that comeback. And you don't have to look at anything that's touchable and tangible. Look at within your soul. So I sum it up like that. Am I correct?
You are, and we also in our little preview we talked about the difference between, I know the viewers, everybody wants to hear the "how do I get rich"
Right.
part, right?
Okay.
How do I get rich?
That's
How do I
true.
get rich? Well,
Yeah.
you got to get wealthy first,
Come on.
and to have true wealth, people play it backwards, right? If you don't have this working right, this machine is the most complicated piece of machinery on the planet, and it's the only one that doesn't come with an owner's manual.
That's right.
So it requires a lot of work, a
That's
lot of
right.
work. And when you get this right, then you can do anything. But people play it backwards. They try to get the business part figured out first without having the there's a reason why before they send you into war, they send you to boot camp
That's right.
because you have to be conditioned. If they
Mhm.
sent you into war not being conditioned, you'd lose.
That's right.
You'd fatigue. You'd fail. So you have to be conditioned mentally,
So I
physically,
want
and
you to,
spiritually.
I'm going to stop you and I want you to say that again for the people in the back. People want to get rich and they need to get what first?
Wealthy. They have to think about what wealth is, right? And wealth is having it all. Rich is just having money and chasing material.
That's,
And the problem with that is every time you attain something, you want something else. You want something else. You want something else.
it becomes
And
club.
and it plays into the whole gratitude thing, right? I thought gratitude, that is so hokey. Everybody wants gratitude, right? So in the normal Steve way, I resisted gratitude. Like okay, sure, I'm grateful. I was told by my spiritual guides, practice gratitude every morning. Why do I have to practice gratitude? I'm grateful, you know? And things just kind of got bumpy for me when I actually started putting gratitude into my Hour of Champions piece and thanking the universe for everything I have every single morning and rattling them off one at a time. The GPS system just became crystal clear again. There I went, and the
Yeah.
wealth lit up, and the magical business opportunities appeared before me. I had crystal clear vision of what I wanted to be, conviction. It all was clear. But if you don't
Mhm.
get this figured out, you fly through a cloud all the
That's
time. Everything is foggy, and you can't make good decisions that make you money and create wealth when you're foggy. You just
that's
can't,
right.
you know.
That's
Um,
that's 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 the takeaway, y'all. We could really end the show on that because that's the takeaway. Wealth begins within.
it sure
You can
does.
coin it. It
Yep.
begins within. And I'm so grateful to have people in my circle like you, Steve, that helps to enable me to be able to think right, get my mind right so my soul can get right and constantly know the true meaning of wealth. Years ago, I wrote a book called God is Transferring the Wealth of the Wicked into the Hands of the Righteous. It's on Amazon, my personal plug, y'all. And in it, it talks about what God requires of us in order to attain wealth. And it's based on the seeds we sow. And it's based on who we are as a person. What are we doing to help people? So, what you did after you went through what you went through, you had to go through it, Steve, but out of it was birthed the Hour of Champions, and thousands of people are being helped in their business, helped in their personal lives, helped in their mental health facilities closing down. People would log on to Facebook in the Hour of Champions just to see what you're putting out there. You're planting seeds that's enabling people to get healed, healed, healed.
I believe that everybody has the power to create their own hour. It doesn't have to be the same time. Mine happens to be 4 o'clock in the morning. I
Right.
think that's the most valuable time. To me, it's uninterrupted. I know that, and I studied high achievers. high achievers, they take advantage of the earliest hour. And I think it's,
Didn't I text you at 5 in the morning one day?
oh no, I texted you and you texted me right back.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Early in the
I
morning.
got up, I looked at my phone. It was 4:07. You had sent me a message the night before. I responded at 4:15, and at 4:16 you responded right back. And
So
I was
that
like,
tell you
she's up.
we on the same
She's
page.
up. Yeah. Um, you know, that's just my world. I love that time. I just love that time. It's great thinking time for me. The internet and YouTube has given me at my fingertips anything I want to learn about. I
That's
will
it.
put it into my phone. The most obscure things in the world, like you know, a discussion came up. I had this fascination with how engines were affixed to airplanes. Like, how does an airplane fly with that massive, And I YouTubed and or if there's a question on accounting or anything I want to know, I put it into my phone, and while I'm working out, I'm kind of listening and learning all the time. And it's the greatest gift in the world because this computer has unlimited storage up here. This
Hmm.
brain needs to be exercised, just like
Yeah.
your body needs to be exercised. You know,
Yeah.
and and when you put all this information in here, and all of a sudden a problem arises, you've got all these different mechanisms that come together, and suddenly you've got solutions that come into your brain. You're like, how did that happen? Because you
Mhm.
stored all this information, and
Yeah.
it found
Share.
it.
I'm sorry, Steve. Share so much I want to ask you, but we don't have all the time. But share with us how you believe in manifesting, right?
I do. Yep,
Okay. Share with us about how when you created dogs in the sale, you built the company and you sold the company. Share with us how that worked for you.
yeah, so I was one of three people. I'm sorry, one of four original partners that took the company from startup um, uh, to sale last October. And during COVID, the company was actually under contract to be acquired a few times. And under both those instances, the deal fell apart. And, one of the companies um, um, had a COVID related problem. And then the second time around, the deal just couldn't find its way to the finish line. And I actually got down on my knees and I asked the universe to make me the person that finds the buyer for the company. I said, this needs to get done. And I'm just asking for, you know, uh, let me do it. Let little Steve Werner do this. And it was kind of ironic. The summer before, in 2020, I ran an online challenge. I called it the COVID Reset Challenge. I had 20 people at 5 o'clock in the morning doing a mind, body, and spirit thing. And I said, while the rest of the world is sitting around feeling sorry for themselves, not doing much, staying under lock and key, we're going to get ourselves in shape mentally, physically, and spiritually. So when
That's
the
right.
world opens up again, we're going to take advantage because
Right.
I believe
Right.
that the universe gave everybody a chance to get back to the starting gate, right?
Mm.
And a young man, a young MBA from the University of Chicago, found his way into the challenge. I'm not even sure how. I think on LinkedIn, and I created accountability partners, and both of my sons happened to be involved in the challenge, and I made this young guy an accountability partner with my older son. And every day you were given a physical, mental, and a spiritual workout. And I always do there was a advanced, beginner, and intermediate on the fitness side, and I always do the advanced. And this young guy was doing it side by side, calling me, "Oh my God, I did today's workout. I could barely make it through it. How do you do it at
Right.
60 years old?" Or yada yada yada. And then 6 months after COVID hit, he invited me. I'm sorry, 6 months after the challenge, he invited me out for lunch and kind of got to know each other. And then About 6 months after that, I decided to reciprocate. And while we were having lunch, I said, "So what are you up to?" And he said, "Well, I work for this private equity group and we're looking for really neat companies to acquire." And I said, "Well, why don't you buy dogs?" And he said to me, "What do you mean? It's for sale?" I said, "Yeah, it's for sale." And he said, "Well, he started asking me a bunch of questions and told him the company was doing great. And, it's just what got you
Yeah.
here won't get you there. It was time to hand it off to new ownership." And we connected his team with my team. And 6 months later, they bought the company. And, that all happened because he joined my Hour of Champions challenge that came from my Facebook group. We got to be friends and
See,
know each other. And I,
impact.
I made the suggestion, and it was nothing more than manifesting. Honest to God, I prayed and asked for it to happen, and it just happened.
That's amazing.
Yep,
That's amazing. We call it manifesting, but whatever you ask him for, he'll provide for you because you put it out there
I
in
think
the
if you
universe.
ask unselfishly,
He'll do it.
I
He'll
think
do
that for the people that ask selfishly, those are reserved for down the line. He's got to get through
it.
all the
Right.
people that ask unselfishly first, like anything else.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
do it in a really genuine, like, please help, we need this to happen kind of a way, then it'll happen.
Yes. I believe that. I truly, truly believe that because of
Yeah,
my life and where I've come from. I know that get my spirit right, my soul right, my mind right, has allowed God to take me to places that I never would have dreamed that I've been. I've been at tables that I've never would have dreamed that I've been at, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity that God has given me to experience both the setback and the comeback. I've had them both, and I believe I needed it in order to be the woman that I am today and to be able to help other people. And just for the record, Steve is a guru in helping you to take your business ideas to new levels. So, through his success coaching, even if you need the spiritual coaching, the physical coaching, the work, how to put the work together, you guys can go to him. If you don't have a business idea, you can come to me, plug for JAS Enterprises. I set up business entities. I help you to develop, make sure all your certifications, your licensing, insurance, all components of the business. Once the business is set up, then I would take it to Steve and have Steve consult with Steve so that he can help you to develop. He's so developed and sold businesses, multi-million dollar businesses. So it's important that you get the right team of people when God gives you an idea of what you need to do. It's important that you have the right team and the right tools in place to help you. Like Steve, when I started my business, I started a not for profit back in 1999. Didn't know how to do any of that. And just like Steve, back then the internet wasn't there. I did like 150-page application with the IRS just to know how to, just to get a not for profit. And I learned things just by doing. So I wasn't fortunate enough to go through the internet and learn things. I do that now to keep abreast of things, but it's important to have the right tools and the right team of people. No man is an island unto itself. So if you're interested in business and development, you need to have a success coach, someone that you can be accountable. Steve called it an accountability partner in business, and that's what make your business grow. I'm surely gonna be tugging on this coat because I got some ideas and some things
I
personally
love it.
that I want to acquire and learn acquisitions and mergers and things like that. My husband and I have businesses, and I want to take it to the next level. I don't want to stay where I'm at. So I know it's time now for me not to self teach, but to learn and have people to pour into me. I've always prayed during my life, through the setbacks and the comebacks, I always ask God to send me somebody that can pour into me, Send me somebody. And Steve, you've been that,
Oh,
whether
thank
you
you.
know it or not. Your random calls, your random text to me, just to, hey, I'm just saying hi. It means a lot to me, and I know that all the work that you have done in the community, you're going to continue to do in the community, and we're going to work together. And family and friends, Steve at hourofchampions.com, or you can reach him at the Hour of Champions on Facebook. You can make sure you join it, and so you can back channel him and get information on his success coaching. Um, Tell me, Steve, one last thing. What do you do when it's dangerous?
What do I do when it's
When
dangerous?
when life just becomes dangerous, where you don't know.
Did I give me a hint what I said before? Okay.
So most oftentimes we get times in our life in business like that was a dangerous portion of your life that you had to go through, but now that you know better, you'll do better. So should another situation occur that
Oh,
becomes,
you have to know your story. You have to be able to look back and use your story as a navigational system. And we tell ourselves we make up these fables and myths that
mhm,
we're not able to do things. And when we look back at our story and see what we've overcome in the face of adversity, danger, whatever it is, it's shocking. It's
yeah,
just it's absolutely shocking, what we're able to do, right? And I love when I'm going to steal this from Anthony Robbins because this is the greatest opener ever. But he always starts a seminar with several thousand people. He says, "Who here has never won a race?" Right now, imagine there's 2,500 people in the crowd. How many
mm,
hands do you think go up when he says, "Who here has never won a race?"
probably all of them.
At least 20%, right? So that's
Okay,
500 people,
okay.
right? And he always says, "I hate to tell you this, but you beat the other 2 billion sperm to the egg." He said there were 2 billion sperm in that
That
race,
was
and
right,
you were the
right.
one that made it to the egg.
I
So
made
don't,
it.
right. So don't tell me you've never won a race. You know?
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
That was the greatest race of your life,
That's right.
right?
That's right. We
Yep.
made it.
We made it.
We
So,
made it. The results are in.
yep.
We win. And it's such an amazing story that you have to share with so many people. And your gifts will make room for you and take you because you're a great man already, but before greater men. I'm looking forward to just hearing more stories from you, Steve, throughout your lifetime, and more grace and more mercy upon your life, and continue to do the things that you're doing for the people, and you can take us out.
It takes uh it takes surrounding yourself with the right people, Judith, and I'm equally as blessed to have you along on my journey. And yeah, sometimes I do just send those random texts because I'm, you know, I stress loyalty. I've got to be loyal to the
Yeah.
people that have been there for me, that remind me when my light goes dim, when I reach out to somebody like you who says, "Here's what you do, Steve. You ask for you ask for strength." Sometimes I need to be reminded. And
Yeah.
the universe says to
That's
me, "Text Judith." And you give me the answer right back. And it's simple,
oh,
you know?
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. But you mean the world to all of us.
Thank you.
To all of us. And we are
Thank
so
you.
grateful that you took the time out to just share with us. Sharing, as my daughter says, caring. And we know that you care. You honestly, everybody that know you, or I ask, do they know you? They have nothing but rave reviews. So family and friends, go and look at the Hour of Champions. Always find that book on Amazon, The Titan, for him, and join the Hour of Champions. It'll encourage, empower, and uplift you. And so this is the first, and I am so blessed
You know what
that,
we say in Judaism, don't you, Judith?
huh?
Do you know what we say in Jewish?
No,
You know how to say congratulations in
no,
Hebrew?
no.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov
Mazel tov.
means
Let me
congratulations.
give you a little story too, Steve. You know my name is Judith.
Yes.
And my name in the Hebrew means Yahuda, means of the tribe of Judah.
Yes, that I know.
And I told my mother, I said, when did you come up with a name Judith as a black woman? And my name is Hebrew. It's Jewish.
Yes, it
It
is.
means of the tribe of Judah.
Yes, it
And
does.
so I believe that even as my mother named me Judah, that it has significance into what I'm supposed to do in this earth.
Well, Mazel Tov.
Mazel tov.
Congratulations on your.
Thank you so much for sharing with
So,
us. We appreciate you.
I'm proud to be. I'm proud and honored. Thank you.
Okay. So give a shout out to whoever you want to shout out to.
Me?
Yeah.
I just want to shout out to everybody, all your raving fans out there, and I want everybody to remember that if you're suffering a setback right now of any kind, whether it's physical, financial, spiritual, in a relationship, we don't get to see the script. The script is not, and our life would be really boring if we
Yeah.
did. But there's a big comeback waiting for you if you're a believer.
That's it.
Yep.
No better words. And we'll end it on that. Thank you once again, Steve. I love you.
Love you too.
Have a
Jimmy.
wonderful and blessed evening. Good
Thank
night.
you.